Are you guys ready to learn this? You ready to learn this beautiful stitch? Well, I'm about to teach you. Now, I know that this looks similar to the star stitch. It's actually made in a very similar manner. And a lot of people will confuse this stitch with the star stitch. So this is the Marguerite stitch. Now, you will see a lot of people refer to the star stitch as the Marguerite stitch. Now, that is incorrect. The Marguerite stitch, although very extremely similar to the star stitch, is made a bit differently. The correct term for the other name for a star stitch would be the simple Marguerite stitch. The regular Marguerite stitch is actually a thicker version of the regular star stitch. So this is the Marguerite stitch. Isn't it pretty? So yes, it is the star stitch, but made in a manner which makes the stars bigger and thicker. So this is a very nice dense fabric. I'm going to give it a see-through scale of about 9. I mean, not see, can't see through it, probably about 95% not see-through. Very nice, very thick fabric. Pretty nice, clean, straight edges. I'll show you how to achieve those. There is a special little trick there, otherwise you're going to have a gap on the end, but you know what, Bagoday is going to show you how not to have that gap. So this is one side, and here is the opposite side, looking pretty similar other than the Marguerite stitches, or the sometimes I call this the big star stitch, but generally I'll call it the Marguerite stitch because that's what it is. The Marguerite stitches are kind of going in the opposite direction. And we got a little ripple here of a line from that third loop of the half double crochet that we use. So this is the correct side, and it does have some texture. If you look at it, the rows are raised a bit because it is a thicker stitch. This stitch would be great for a lot of things. Now, yes, it is going to be a bit of a yarn eater, but hey, the pretty ones always are. That's what I always see. But great for anything that you need a nice thick fabric for, and you don't want it to be see-through. Sky's the limit. So you guys want to get started on it? Let's do it. You got this. You got this. Simple, 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 simple. So the yarn that I use there that you see for this stitch sample is Red Hot Super Saver Ombre. This is a 100% acrylic medium weight number 4 yarn, and the color I am using is called Anemone. Such a pretty flower. And also for the purpose of this tutorial, I am going to be using a size J, which is a 6mm crochet hook. Now, the Marguerite stitch is done in any even number of stitches. All right. Now, it is worked on a base chain of single crochet itself. Okay, it has to be on a base chain of single crochet to work it. Otherwise, yeah, it's just gonna pull up your chain and be all wonky. So an even number of stitches. All right, my swatch here that you see, sorry, I chained 40 for this swatch in case you're interested, but that's generally about the size of my swatches, but I'm going to show you here on a smaller scale. So this one I chained 20. But, depending on what you're making, whether it be you want a nice thick scarf, you want a nice thick blanket, you want some placemats, whatever, hot pads, any even number of stitches to your chains is at its desired length, all right? And then we're going to go ahead and start row 1. And we are going to do a single crochet in that second stitch from the hook. Remember, we do not count this notes on our hook. So 1, 2, and we're going to work a single crochet in that second stitch. And we're going to work across, and we're going to put 1 single crochet in every stitch for the length of the chain. Alright, so row 1, very easy, 1 single in every stitch, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. Alright, so I have come to the end of row 1. So rows 2 and 3 are going to be the repeat rows. It is a 2-row repeat. Now you're going to see that it is extremely similar to the star stitch, if you know how to do that. But there is one difference, alright? and you'll see it right away. We're going to start off with a chain of 3. So 1, 2, 3, and we're going to turn our work. And we're going to be working into the second stitch of this chain and the first stitch of the chain. What we're going to do is we're going to yarn over, and we're going to go into the second loop of the chain like that, and we're going to draw up a loop. We're going to yarn over again, and we're going to go into that first loop of that chain that we made and draw up a loop. Now we're going to go into this very first stitch right here. We're going to yarn over and go into that very first stitch, and we're going to draw up a loop. Then we're going to yarn over and go into the next stitch and draw up a loop. And one more time, we're going to yarn over and go into the next stitch and draw up a loop. So you see the difference here between this and the regular star stitch, otherwise known as the small Marguerite. We're yarning over versus not yarning over. So you will have 11 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 loops. We're going to yarn over and go through all 11 like that. I always give it a little tug, and we're going to chain 1 to lock it into place. Now that is how the first Marguerite stitch is made, all right, on the end here. Now the other ones are going to be made similar, but yeah, this is a bit different. Okay, what we're going to do is, you see the circle here in the Marguerite right here where we just chained. We're going to yarn over and go through that circle and draw up a loop. All right, and this Marguerite here has a leg on it similar to the star stitch. All right, the last leg of it. We're going to yarn over, twist it to the back, and go into the back loop of that last leg. So you're only going through one loop and draw up a loop. Okay, then we're going to yarn over and go into the exact same stitch that our last leg is in. So the same stitch that we just ended in, we're going to go right back into it and draw up a loop. And then we're going to yarn over and draw up a loop in the next 2 empty stitches. All right, so yarn over, go into the next stitch, draw up a loop. You want to draw it up a little taller, you know, kind of even with all of them. And again, yarn over and go into the next stitch, draw up a loop, and you should have 11 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yarn over and go through all 11. I like to give it a little tug, and then chain 1. Now that's how the Marguerite stitches are going to be made all the way across. All right, let's do it again. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to go into this chain 1 space here that we just made of the last Marguerite stitch, and draw up a loop. And then there's this leg here of the Marguerite stitch. We're going to yarn over, flip our work, and this same leg here, we're going to go in the back loop of it so it doesn't show on the front, and draw up a loop. And then we're going to go into the same stitch as that last leg right there. Draw up a loop. Remember, draw them up a little tall so they're kind of all even. And we're going to yarn over and draw up a loop in the next 2 stitches. So yarn over and go into the next one. Draw up a loop. Yarn over, go into the next one. Draw up a loop. 11 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through all 11. Give it a tug. Give it a tug, chain 1. There we go. So now we have 3 Marguerite stitches. All right, I'll show you again. Let's do it again. So there's our chain 1 space. We're going to yarn over, go into that chain 1 space, draw up a loop. And here is our last leg. We're going to yarn over and go into that back loop of that last leg, draw up a loop. Yarn over and go into the same stitch as our last leg. So right here, draw up a loop, just like that. Make sure that one gets the last 3 here. Make sure you draw them up tall as the other ones. And then we're going to yarn over and go into the next 2 stitches. So yarn over and go into the next one, draw up a loop. And then we're going to yarn over and go into the next one, draw up a loop. You will have 11 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through all 11. Give it a tug like that. Chain 1. And this is what we're going to repeat until we get to the end of the row. I'll do it one more time here. Yarn over, go into that chain 1 space of that last Marguerite stitch, draw up a loop. And this last leg here, we want to yarn over and go into the back loop of that last leg. Draw up a loop. Yarn over and go into the same stitch as our last leg. Draw that loop up a little taller. And then yarn over and go into the next 2 stitches. Draw that loop up a little taller, and then the next one a little taller. 11 loops on your hook. Excuse me. You want to yarn over and go through all 11. Give it a little tug and chain 1. Now we're going to repeat this pattern all the way down until we get to the end of the row. All right, when you're coming to the end of the row, you're going to notice that you have 2 stitches left. We're going to do, that's enough for us to do one more Marguerite stitch, all right? So let's go ahead and do it. Yarn over, drop a loop in that first one. Yarn over, we're going to hit that back loop of that last leg. Drop a loop. Yarn over, we're going to go into the same stitch as our last leg. Drop a loop. And yarn over and go into each of these last 2 stitches. Just like that. You got 11 loops there on your hook. Yarn over and go through all 11. And then we are going to chain 1. Now that is going to end row 2. Now the thing is about the big Marguerite, sometimes you got to give it a little stretch. For the Marguerite, you have to give it a little stretch. All right. So row 3. So we're going to count the chain 1 we did to lock this as our chain 1. All right. We don't want to chain 1 again. So we're just going to go ahead and directly turn our work like this. And we're going to work right back into that space. And we're going to work 2 half double crochet. So this is what's going to keep our rows a little straighter on the ends. All right. 2 half doubles. So if you see that first one right there, it looks like a chain space. So when we get back into that, we'll be working into that. That's going to keep our rows a little straighter. So go back in that spot again and work another half double. Okay. Now we're going to work across the row, and we're going to put 2 half doubles in the chain space of each of these Marguerite stitches. So there's 2 half doubles there. And you jump to the next one. You'll be able to see them pretty visibly since they are a thicker version of a star. They got a bigger eyelet, I guess you would call it. I don't know. But yeah, you should be able to visibly see those chain 1 spaces. And we're going to go across and we're going to put 2 half doubles in each of those. All right, so I'm going to continue this 2 half doubles. This is row 3 we're on, final row of the repeat, until we get to the last stitch of our row, and I'll meet back up with you there. Show you how to end that side a bit, so we don't have no gappage going on. All right, so I'm coming to the end of row 3. And I did 2 half doubles in my last little eyelet of my Marguerite stitch. And what we want to do is half double into the chain space. Remember when we chained 3 at the beginning of this previous row? We're going to half double and go into the top of that chain space. Go into it, half double crochet. That will end the row 3. and you should have an odd number of stitches. You should have the same amount of stitches now that you did on row 1, the single crochet base row. That's it. It's just a repeat of rows 2 and 3. So I'm going to go ahead and show you for row 4. I'm going to repeat row 2. I'm going to show you how to end it down here, so you can kind of have a nice straight row, because it didn't really show much, I guess, on row 2. So row 4, I'm just going to do the same thing that I did on row 2. So I'm going to chain 3, turn my work, and we're going to start. I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to go into the second chain on my second chain from the hook and draw up a loop. I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to go into that first chain that we made of that chain 3, draw up a loop, and then I'm going to go into this very first stitch right here, right there, yarn over, go into it, draw up a loop, and then I'm going to yarn over and go into the next 2 stitches and draw up loops. Yarn over, go into the next stitch, draw up a loop. Remember, these draw up a little taller there. And the next one, and draw up a loop. Like that. Yarn over, go through all 11 loops, give it a little tug, and chain 1. So now we're going to do the same thing. So let's do it again. We're going to yarn over, and now we're going to go through this chain space here of this first Marguerite stitch, draw up a loop. We're going to yarn over, and we're going to go in the back loop of that last leg. Draw up a loop, yarn over, and go into the same stitch as that last leg. Draw up that loop a little taller, and we're going to yarn over and go into the next 2 stitches. Yarn over, draw up a loop. Again, yarn over and go into the next one, draw up a loop. 11 loops, yarn over and go through all 11. Give it a little tug. Doesn't have to be extreme, I guess, but. And chain 1. Just like that. So just like we did on row 2, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Same thing that we did on row 2. We're making Marguerite stitches the same exact way. And I'm going to do it until we get to the end of the row. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that last Marguerite from now on. So you can keep your rows as straight as possible anyways. Right? That's what we try for. Alright. Alright, so I'll see you near the end of this row. Alright, so I'm coming to the end, and this is how you're going to end when you do the Marguerite stitch, where you're repeating row 2 from now on. So I just did one, and it appears that we only have 1 stitch left, but there are actually 2 stitches there. Alright, we do it this way so we don't have a gap on the end. Alright, so we're going to do one last Marguerite stitch, which is going to line up with this one right here on the end. So this is how you're going to end this row from now on, the repeat of row 2. We're going to go into the chain 1 space, draw up a loop, back loop of the last loop, somewhere around there. Draw up a loop. The space, or the stitch of the last loop that we just worked in, draw up a loop. Alright, so as I mentioned, there's 1 stitch here, and then before I mentioned, remember I said this looked like a chain space, but that was going to be a stitch, because it is. It's just a very tight stitch. It is a half double. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to go into this stitch right here and draw up a loop, and we got to do that one more time to get our 11 loops. So we're going to yarn over, and on the side, this right here that appears to be a chain 1, it's not a chain 1, because remember, we did not chain 1. We just turned our work. This is the top of our very first half double crochet. This is the reason why we do not chain 1 and turn. So we go into that and draw up a loop. Now you got your 11 loops. You can yarn over and go through all 11. And this, to close it, that's the only chain one we do. So by doing that, that helps keeps the rows straighter. So again, you would just repeat row 3, which is a half double crochet row. So remember, we don't turn. That chain one that locks all these loops in place, that's all that we're going to do. We're going to turn our work and work directly into this space right here, and we're going to work 2 half doubles. So it gets really tight, but it is a stitch, and it needs to be tight in order for your rows to stay straight and not gap out and be, you know, look, they'll start to look wonky. All right, go back in and then do another one, half double, like that. All right, and now we're going to work across just like we did before, working 2 half double crochets in the chain 1 space of each of these Marguerite stitches. All right, now you just keep repeating these 2 rows until you get to your desired length. I will mention that sometimes when you go through, since we're going through so many loops on our hook, and then you kind of tighten it up a bit before you chain 1, sometimes that will tend to make all those loops and whatnot will tend to make your work seem like it's going awry, like crooked. It's not. It just needs a stretch. All right, it's just getting like a little too tight. So if you notice that it's starting to get go like, you see mine is not doing that, but if you do notice that it's starting to do like that, that means you're probably pulling your 11 loops a little too tight. All you have to do is kind of straighten it up, and then don't pull them quite so tight as you proceed. But yeah, this is, you know, this is it. This is how it's done. It's super pretty, and there you go. You got pretty straight. That's some pretty straight edges, I have to say. Remember, this is very important that you don't do that chain 1 on this end, and it's very important that you go into that chain space on this end to keep those rows straight. All right. That's how you do the Marguerite stitch. I hope that you enjoyed my tutorial. Remember, you just repeat those 2 rows until you get to your desired length, ending on a half double crochet row. So whatever you use this stitch for, I just like the wave of it, how it has that. It looks like a field of beans or something. Well, where I live, very rural, we grow corn and soybeans. And this is what the soybeans fields look like. Here's your rows of them. Like this would be your beans. And the rows of dirt in between. I guess that's kind of not a good reference. But anyways, I'm surrounded by corn and bean fields where I live. So that's all I see. But I think it's cool, and I hope that you do too. So if you make something out of this, come show me on my Facebook page, all right? I'd love to see it. There's a link to that below in the description box. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, please check out my rest of them. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. They're all free. They're free for you to enjoy. All I ask is that you hit that subscribe button. It's free to hit that subscribe button. Give me a like and comment below. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys on my next video. All right? Take care. Bye, guys.